Wayne Spooney here, First to the Floor podcast. I'm here with a Celtics media legend, Jake Eisenberg. Jake, what's up, buddy?
Mate, I'm good. You know, I've been trying to get my grass cut for 2 months, and if you can hear a slight buzzing, just tell me, and I'll leave the podcast. And they've decided to do it right now after trying for the last 2 months.
So first off, that was like a sneaky flex when we're dealing with winter conditions. Like,
right.
We haven't had snow yet, but like the whole so poor me down here on the other side of the world where it's so beautiful, and that's
look.
I really feel bad that they have to mow your grass for you.
Worse problems, and I would do it myself, but the ride-on lawnmower that my landlord has is broken, and so it's just
what they all say. That's what I always tell my wife, babe. The lawnmower's broken. I swear. Okay, well, if you know who we are, you probably know that voice. It's Chris Forsberg, NBC Sports Boston, Celtics Talk podcast. Chris, how you doing? Holiday season.
Happy Christmas season here, and hope you all got your shopping done and getting your grass mowed and ready for the big holiday.
I don't know about you guys, but after a grueling 24-hour wait, the Boston Celtics finally won a basketball game. I can't believe it. But Jake, I've seen your tweets. Watched some of the playback for that Warriors game. Jake, I mean, fair to say you're a little worried, right?
Look, was I emotional during? This is the tough thing: streaming these games live and then going live straight after them. I'm not a disciple of Brad Stevens in that I have not been able to really embrace the don't get too high, don't get too low thing. You'd think by now I would be a seasoned veteran with these NBA seasons, but no, I'm riding the roller coaster just as much as I always have. And I was not in the most awesome place after the Warriors game, but I did say that this could be a moment for good reasons. This could be a moment where they bounce back in a tough spot with no Tatum, no Al against one of the fastest teams in the league, and I'm back in. I'm here. Let's go.
So back, baby. Like that's what we do around here. People always make fun of me when I lose my mind after bad losses, but just like you said, when you have to react in the moment, it's you're sometimes maybe a night's sleep would have made you a little bit better about how you phrased it and stuff like that. Because in the moment you're kind of caught up in it, and I think we have ridiculous expectations for this team, and so when you blow a 17-point lead in a very winnable game, when you're desperate to see them beat that particular team. And that's the one thing I kept going back to is like, if there was anyone else besides Golden State, I probably would have been like, whatever, okay, you blow 17-point leads in the NBA. It's not all that uncommon. But when it's that one team that sort of represents everything that where you want to be and like how you want to play late in games, it's I don't know, it twisted that knife a little bit. And so, good that I hate when players come out and they're like, we got a game in 24 hours, so that's all we have to focus on. And they were as pissed as anybody that they let that thing go. And we heard it was a very quiet bus ride up to Sacramento. And so good to see them sort of remind us all at level they can play, and that we didn't have to do like 3 days of Jesus. What is this team doing?
So that's interesting because I feel like the players party line is always like it's one game at a time, like no game means more than any other in the regular season, but you really think like the Warriors game meant more to these guys?
What did they say last year? Like I remember I went out there for that game, and it was in the post-game press conferences. I think both Jayson and Jaylen were like, you guys really built this game up, it was just another night for us.
Right.
We're like, no, if you had won that game, you would have come out and been like, oh, it mattered. Like you lost to these guys in the final. You can't unequivocally just say that like it doesn't matter. As much as players want to say, and Joe Mazzulla and Brad Stevens can say things like they're all one of 82, that's not the way it goes. It does not have the same gravity of a random visit to Memphis on, maybe that's a bad example now, but like
Charlotte, Tuesday is Charlotte.
The prototypical Monday night in Charlotte that
right.
Jason loves to talk about. So for me, that game had a little extra heft, especially consider the parallels of being 21-5 last year and being 20-5 going into this year. And even with all the drama around Golden State, it mattered. And so the fact that the team was super quiet and, at least on the bus that Scal and Drew took up to Sacramento, you got the sense that it hurt them. It stung them a little bit, knowing that they still just haven't gotten over that little bit of a hump. But probably not the worst reminder that you still have some strides, that you still need to be a little bit better, and a good reminder that, not to get you too far ahead of us here, because sometimes we watch and you're like, oh, wow, this is championship or bust, and it still is. It's just, sometimes you get a little too high and a little too low.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I definitely got too high after the Magic game. But like to your point about the like every game, being the same, whether or not we believe them or not. Jaylen came out and said like, these guys have beaten us a bunch of times, and like it looked to me like they played the Magic games like they meant a little bit more. And whether or not that's like the home and home with these little like mini playoff series type of thing, these guys are insane competitors. I refuse to believe that certain games don't like all mean the same. So that's why I personally would have loaded up on the first game and sent Porzingis and Al into Golden State, and then let the hospital, because the hospital Celtics they're undefeated. Like I would have give me Tatum at center or the small ball lineups. I would have loved to have seen Porzingis in that matchup. But hey, look. It all seems to have worked out in the end a little bit.
You mean Oshai Brissett Celtics?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Warriors game aside, look, it's a bad loss. Porzingis didn't play. That probably matters. Neither did Draymond. If you're a Warriors fan, you'd probably say the same thing. But this Kings game, first of all, I went to bed after the middle of the second quarter. I woke up to take a piss at 2 a.m. and checked my phone, and I quadruple checked the score because I was like, does that say 144? That was just an absolutely absurd game. Man, it feels good when the threes go down. So I present to you guys, and Forsberg, you first. Can anyone beat this team when the threes go down?
I mean, the data suggests no, right? What is it? They're above 42% overall from the floor, and I forget what the number is from three, but you're going to have a
36,
tough time. Yeah, it's something low. And so, look, this is why Joe Mazzulla obsesses about the math and the whole – we keep talking about the margins, but it's essentially he wants more shots than the other team. He wants more 3-point shots, and he'll live if it's the right shots. And if we're going to obsess about them missing 41 3-pointers on one night when 20-something go down the next, you got to be like, okay, that's just the way it goes sometimes. Will that bear itself out over a playoff series? I don't know, right? And certainly I think there has to be a balance. And yet, it's undeniable when they're shooting the way they did in that game. And of course, it makes no sense, right? Second night of a back-to-back after they played overtime of a game. There's no reason they should have been red hot offensively, but so of course they were. And I don't know, maybe let's chalk it up to Porzingis being out there and everything just gets easier. And maybe it's just that simple.
It is nice to have that big fella back, but it definitely kind of felt like, for me, the first true modern NBA offensive explosion game of the year. I know we had that Pacers game where we beat them by 50, but there was no Halliburton, and that Wizards game. I don't really count those as real games, but the Kings, a legit, fourth seed in the West. They're one of really good teams going back to last season as well. And that first quarter where the Kings put up 21 3-point attempts in the first quarter, 11 for 21. They're on pace for 84 threes in the game. And the Celtics, and that was, I thought, part of the problem with the Celtics game against the Warriors was, yes, everybody focused on the kind of the offense and the threes and that kind of stuff. But the bigger issue to me was the defense. If they were able to just to string together stops really at any point in any quarter, then they would have won that game, especially late. They just couldn't string together stops. Whereas this Kings game, and that's been the most consistent part of this Celtics team to me, has been the defense, and they did crank it up basically from that first quarter onwards. So the Kings start with 21 attempts, but then second quarter, and again, that's why attempts are really indicative of how a team is playing both offensively and how a team is playing defensively. The Kings only get up 9 attempts in the second, only get 5 3-point attempts in the third quarter. They shoot 3 for 5, so still 60%. But the fact that they only get up 5 attempts means you're taking the Kings completely out of the way that they want to play basketball. And that's something they weren't able to do against the Warriors. And that's why I've actually been higher on this team mostly this year, is because the defense has exceeded my expectations coming to this year. Pretty much night in, night out, they've been excellent. And they cranked it up in after the first quarter, and then they're able to go out and run, and that's when it feels like the avalanche can happen, is when they get a little bit more pace, a little bit more chaos.
Yeah, it just seems like you have to be such a good defensive team to slow this Celtics team down. The Warriors, not a great defensive team. The Celtics shot 29%. They still basically hung 115 on them at the end of regulation. And the Kings, it just felt like they had absolutely no chance. And the threes going down obviously was great, but this is a 20-plus point blowout. So even if that 52.4% from three ticks down to more human ranges, it's still probably going to be a pretty decent win there. So, I mean, this game to me, more than anything, just highlighted how important Kristaps Porzingis is to this team, really on both ends.
Yeah, and the way I look at it is people keep asking me what is the number one thing that stands out to you through first third of the season. Now I guess it is well past the quarter mark now, but for me it just comes back to Porzingis. I had high expectations on its own, right? Just the player that I thought you're getting, and so many people wanted to complain about it's just empty calorie stats after playing for the Wizards, and he can't possibly keep that up, and he's going to be injured all the time. But it's important to have him healthy. That part is undeniable, and they've got to manage all this stuff. And it's no fun when he's got to sit out the first night in Golden State. But if he's healthy in late April, May, and June because of it, then that'll be fine. And just like you guys said, offensively, I kind of knew you were getting a little bit of a cheat code, right? Whether it's stretching the floor and having to respect that, or just the luxury of just, okay, we got nothing going on, throw it into them. To take advantage of this mismatch. We did the stat today, 1.39 points per play on post.
Crazy.
It's ridiculous. And then we ran a highlight montage, and I just sat there laughing because it's all right. Here's some 6'6" guard who got switched on to him and what are you gonna do? He's just so talented and just gonna muscle his way there and just gonna lean over you like he's on a pop-a shot and put the thing in. So it's such a luxury to have that. But defensively has been what has really stood out to me, and I think the numbers bear it out. They're a couple points better defensively when he's on the floor, and the shot blocking, the fact that you can't, even if you're lucky enough to get past Drew and Derrick White, you're going to have some trouble finishing at the basket with him there. And the blocks, I was actually surprised, because I feel like he's had those a couple 5-block games, 6-block game, whatever it is, and he's still under 2 blocks per game. I suspect that by the end of the year that will, it just maybe because the Celtics just block everything every night. It's pretty crazy that that number isn't higher, but quite the luxury, and it's so evident when he's not out there how much of a presence he can be. That it's for me that maybe that will just keep me when I say he's got to be healthy when it matters, and if he is, this team has a great chance to do what it wants to do.
Look, it's hard to get your blocks up above 2 when you got Derrick White out here stealing all the blocks. He had another 3 blocks last night. Yeah, look, you almost have to ignore the losses without Porzingis, because especially the type of loss that you had against the Warriors, where the late offense, like the crunch time stuff, wasn't super smooth start to finish, because the whole point of Porzingis, it's great that he has also been an anchor, one of the best defenses in the NBA, but the whole point of Porzingis is to fix the Celtics' biggest issue, and the reason they haven't won a title in the past 2 years has been, when the offense gets slowed down in the playoffs against the Warriors, against the Heat. And that's a bet you have to take. Of course, there's injury risk with Porzingis. It's obvious, but I think it's pretty clear to me, in my opinion, that in the Eastern Conference especially, if Porzingis is healthy and this team is healthy, they are a tier above everybody else. They're by themselves. The Bucks can't touch them. The Sixers can't touch them. But if he is out, then we're still really good, but we're part of the tier with the Sixers and the Bucks. I still think they could make the finals. Let's say you don't have Porzingis for the playoff stretch, they could make them, but we're gonna.
Whoa.
I'm just saying. We're gonna age as we've already lost 5 to 7 years of our lifespan because of the last 2 playoff runs. Where we've played more 7-game playoff series than anybody in NBA history over a 2-game stretch or something absurd. If we have Al and no KP, that's probably the reality that we have again, and we're going to flip a coin, and maybe we make the finals, maybe we don't. If he's healthy, that's the ceiling that you have, is we might go 4, 5, 6 and get to the finals. That's, I think, how good this team can be, because as good as they have been, I still think there's another level that they can go to, just as players along the way kind of find themselves. True, KP, everybody's kind of fitting in slowly here, but when he's out there, it completely changes the geometry of the team.
Yeah, and I think offensively it made total sense with KP. Like it just absolute like pick and roll with Tatum, Brown, blah blah blah. But defensively, it like has been so impressive. You guys both touched on it, but one thing I've noticed about KP that I can't remember since like KG. And I'm going there. Forsberg. I saw your eyebrows raise right there.
KP and KG. Like, I mean, all right, I'm go for it.
It's close, right? It's basically the same. Is that like Rob was an incredible rim protector and shot blocker, but the way they deployed him, he wasn't always around the rim. He did a lot of switching. He was kind of in that free safety role. KP is just like such a deterrent because he's always there. I lost count of how many times like Monk, or Fox or Murray would almost get to the rim and see KP and just be like, actually, never mind. I'm just going to kick this thing out. And like the shot blocks don't capture that, right? Yeah. There's really no way to capture it other than like maybe on-off defensive rating. And that's just so valuable and such a big part that I wasn't aware he was that good at that, you know?
100%. And I go back to it. Like when you don't watch it every night, you don't know the intricacies of it, and you can look at the numbers. But sure, even I said, is he this good based on the Washington numbers? Like, why hasn't it worked in New York? Why didn't it work in Dallas? And you can tell now there was just extenuating circumstances where he wasn't in the ideal mix. But the only other thing I would throw in there is just the way he's been able to elevate other players. And like, I think it's no coincidence that Jaylen has turned into an assist wizard and totally blossomed his game. And it's the dude that he's riding home from games with. He's flying to Miami to look at art with. Like it's pretty wild that this little Brozingis romance has blossomed and really because both players are just making each other better out there. And it's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, I think part of like his defensive ceiling that he was like the numbers were really good last year, but maybe we didn't quite see it. But like when you're surrounded by Derrick, Drew, Jaylen, Jayson, Al, dare I say Pritchard and Sam Hauser, like there's not a negative defender out there unless teams finally figured out to run Hauser through all those screens, which only like 1 in 5 teams seems to be able to figure out.
Don't be giving away the game plan.
I know. Latvia, we got Latvia.
ISO
Moses.
him. You got him.
Yeah, ISO him. That's right.
Go for it.
But I'd be remiss if I didn't call back. Pete from Latvia is not in the chat today, but Forsberg, he alerted us to the Latvian legend known as the Bear Slayer, which is the nickname that we have been calling him. And in our playback stream last night, Tim Shields used AI to bring this to my attention yesterday.
Oh, yes.
The Bear Slayer.
Oh, it's beautiful. The number's not quite right. But
I know
is that Porzingis or spooning?
I was going to say, is that Forsberg? I
cannot grow a beard like that, I can assure you. Yeah.
But man.
So wait, where does the Bear Slayer come from? Like,
it's like similar to Greek mythology. Like he's a Hercules type figure, a demigod, not necessarily a full immortal character. Yeah.
I never thought to like Google what Porzingis means in Latvian and see if there's any I can tell you Forsberg means like river rapids or something in Swedish, and it's like it's not cool. You can call me the River Slayer or something like that, but like maybe Porzingis means bear hunter or something. I don't know. Like that's where my mind goes when we start coming up with cool nicknames.
Yeah, River Slayer is fantastic too. I'll see what AI comes up with.
Right there we go. Loading down like a lazy river.
The etymology of spooner, not super exciting. Her relatives were spoon makers, so yeah, pretty cool. All right, okay. Let's move on from KP because I'm pretty sure we could do an hour on him. But I just have to, Jake, give you the floor for a couple minutes. Canvas in the chat. D. White is such a complete player. He attacks at all levels on both sides of the ball. Please.
I mean, I was able to get the presidential suite at the Citizen Hotel, the autograph collection for me and Derrick last night, myself and the mistress. I mean, this guy is on a serious tear. I mean, Forsberg, do you think there's a legitimate all-star case for?
There is, but it's I mean, like everything's prefaced with like I'm worried that they're not like it's going to be hard for them to get 2 because they're going to split the votes, right? Like you're leaning on the all-star coach, the all-star reserves are voted by the coaches, right?
Yeah.
And now you're at the mercy of like some assistant in Charlotte is going to put Derrick White above Jaylen Brown or Kristaps Porzingis. And I think just if you ask those guys, like, well, they probably respect it more than maybe even the most casual fan. If you're talking about game planning, you're probably talking about more emphasis on Jaylen, on Kristaps and stuff like that. So, but I do love that, if nothing else, as long as we're having the conversation about it, that's good. And I'm sure Brad Stevens is sitting there going, man, this is going to cost Wick some serious dollars with every campaign they do. But it's absolutely deserved. Like, I hope we get to a point, and I don't know when it will happen. It'll probably be long after I'm covering this team, but maybe eventually we will get to a point where we don't judge based on just scoring output and, like, obsess about those things. And if we could sit there and have a real conversation about the net rating guys that actually matter, and like, no disrespect to Isaiah Joe and what he's doing in OKC and stuff like that. But like, let's talk about the guys who are playing 30 something minutes a night, the best opponents, the best like assignments and stuff like that. And Derrick has done it consistently. I mean, it's to me, it was clear from, even a couple of weeks ago, we did a little segment on Celtics Post Up. Just like, I thought it should at least be a conversation, and I'm acknowledging it's a long shot, but it's just cool that he's at least getting the respect, because it doesn't always get the eyeballs and the attention when a guy is just an on-off wizard. And the fact that, I mean, I said it today on our show, like, he's putting up Tatum-like on-off splits right now, and Tatum is somehow not putting up Tatum on-off splits, and it's almost jarring. There's a part of me that wants to be like so bold to say, if you had to pick two all-stars, like, I'll throw it at you guys first before I go.
Okay, all right.
If you had to pick two all-stars right now from this team, who are you sending?
Spoony.
So I've got a hot take. Okay, this is dumb. Like, Tatum should make it. But, like, if I'm actually picking who I think is winning basketball games for the Celtics most consistently, I'm sending JB, and I'm sending it's between White and KP. I'd probably send Porzingis, though. Yeah, and it pains me to say that. It pains me to say that.
That's the hard part about this, right? All right. Well, what do you got, Jake?
I mean, I'm Derrick all day long.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we know that.
Derrick. I mean, I think it might be KP, just because. And I hate doing this and I saw someone in the chat here saying never enough love for Jaylen. We're going to get to Jaylen Brown. Do not worry about that. But but you're right, Forsberg. It's like Tatum's going to get that, and then the problem is Porzingis, Jaylen, and Derrick all have a case. I have one. I mean, there's so many great Derrick White stats out there right now, but my favorite one that I've seen today from Trey on Twitter, Derrick White is scoring 33 points per 100. When Tatum is off the court on 61% true shooting. He's literally playing like an MVP when Tatum's off the court. Like, it's just insanity.
Which is all we've ever wanted, right? One dude who can keep this team afloat. And even Jaylen's been better at that. Yep. And they're starting to find lineups. I thought that stretch, was it Orlando when he was in foul trouble or whatever that game was, where they had to go to a bench unit, and the first time I think really all season that they played with the four other non-Tatum starters for like any real amount of time, and it was like, whoa, they were +8 in that stretch, and that never happens when Tatum is off the court. Well, I mean, now it's happening pretty frequently, and it's almost jarring. Yeah, my hot take was going to be, because Tatum just so weird that the dude was October, November Player of the Month, and
I know.
Man,
that was fake,
kind of having a rough December. But like the on-off splits are just like, it's so jarring to me to look at them and be like, how is this happening? Like, how is he like +1.2 or something for the season? And I just think it comes down to everyone's been really good, and Derrick chief among them. I think it's a very hard decision to make about who to send. If I had to, if you were you'd have to decide right now who the two players you're sending are. And I think Jaylen was again, the slow start probably contributed to me thinking about, I'd send Jayson and Porzingis, or Jayson and Derrick, and I don't know, it gets a lot hotter now. And then here's Drew just locking up every dude throw at him, and I'm
every position. Yeah.
So the Celtics decided to promote their entire starting five, which I'm like, this is terrible theory, because you're only further contributing to the split vote if you don't sort of just identify, and maybe they will down the road narrow in on a guy. It's actually fair. Like, I get it. And the net rating of that 5-man unit suggests, that 5 is really good. So I hope maybe we can get all the Eastern Conference assistant coaches together and be like, everybody just vote for this dude, please, because this is the one that deserves to get there.
Yeah, we this is gonna roll off the tongue. We need like an all actually useful at winning games and like team. You know what I mean? At the end of the year, it's like let's vote in all the guys who don't make all NBA, but like those next level of guys or like the best role players in the league or something like that. We got to reward these dudes because
it really would be nice that. And again, I think with the as we evolve in the way we evaluate the game, can we find a way to shine a brighter light on the guys that don't get that? And I don't know what that is. Is that like you eliminate all NBA and all-star guys and you're just like, here's the next 10 best players, first team, second team, all under the radar guys, but Derrick would be a perennial all under the radar guy because this is what he does every single year. And it's in a brighter spotlight this year.
Yeah, like he's technically a role player, but what he's done now, he feels like he's graduated from role player. Him not making the top 100 was the best thing that ever happened.
Can we give credit to ESPN? Like they fueled the Celtics between Jaylen calling that post about all the shot attempts corny, and Derrick White top 100. My former employer has just been absolutely getting all the Celtics going. So,
I love it. Fuel the underdog story. We need something on the bulletin board.
The title favorites, the underdogs. Yeah.
Maybe they'll just they'll do some Tatum slander now that he's somewhat slumping, and that's will
good.
Reinvigorate him in January.
That's what we want.
I mean, he's definitely due for a little bit. Go on, Spoony.
No. I was just gonna say, Jake, that's a great stat you got from Trey. That 61 true shooting percentage, though. It's unfortunately down from his 66% true shooting on the season, which means when he's playing with Tatum, he must be at like 68%, which is absolutely absurd.
Yeah, when he has to be the high usage guy, it's like a 61. It's terrible.
He's just well above average efficiency. No big deal. All right, speaking of unheralded guards that are white, Peyton Pritchard is back.
That's good.
Derrick White. Thank you.
What a transition.
24-4, a steal. Jake's got some stats for us, but PP's back. Jake, hit us with it.
So my favorite fast PP stat that I've come up with so far, of all players that are 6'4" and under, have played at least 10 games and playing 20 minutes per game, he is number one in the league in offensive rebounding percentage. And
no surprise. I thought you were going to come with something that would make me go, "Oh my goodness!" Dude is the best offensive. Like he makes Luke Cornett look, like paltry in terms of rebounding.
Yeah, like if you filter out, like if you just have the minimum games played at 10 and take out the minutes, he's still third. It's like Gary Payton and the other one is escaping me right now, but he's third in the league of all players like 6'4" and under that are in offensive rebounding. So like he's a legitimate elite offensive rebounder for his position. And I mean, the shooting slump is officially over. On the season after last night, he's at 39.4% from three. So like, that's all we really wanted was him to be up at 40% for the year. But what we love about Pritchard is his ability to go supernova. And coming into the season, what I loved about this bench was like, there's going to be nights when you have Hauser and Pritchard just go nuclear from three. And last night, Pritchard goes 6 for 11 and Hauser a measly 2 for 4. But like, so to combine an 8 for 15 and like, last 15 games, he's at 48.5% from three. It's just like...
Is that good?
Is
that good?
And 15 games is like most of the 2/3 of the season now. So it's like the sample size is here and Pritchard is like making a name for himself coming off the bench now.
The road splits were like somewhat concerning, and yet like the impact was just never wavered. Like whenever he was out there, he was making good things happen, and that's really all I want from the bench guys. Scal says it all the time. He's like, I don't care if they make shots, I don't care if they take shots. Like they just got to be effective in the minutes that they're out there, and I think he was just the sort of that. I did not expect him to blossom into like the Derrick White type of when on the bench, where it just was positive impact and didn't have to score to be that guy. But I don't know, you get here and you get a taste of that Brad Stevens elixir, and next thing you know, you're like your advanced metrics go through the roof. So it is a big development because I thought, as we was invariably this time of year, we all start talking about like what do they need, and even though from my perspective it hasn't really changed a whole lot, I think there was an argument to be made that if Peyton hadn't got the shot going after sort of the little rough start, you could have made a case. Did they need like another point guard or somebody like a depth guard there? And I don't even think it's something you have to think about now. It's just like, you're looking for big wings and maybe a big and like, that's probably more the priority than anything else because Peyton's at least going to give you good minutes. And I will be interested to see if he can hold up defensively in a playoff series, which will perpetually be the conversation. But when you have enough talent out there around him, it hopefully negates some of the ability of a team like Miami to attack him and try to take advantage of him.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
I think round one you're going to get Pritchard. That's going to be fine. It's like once you get to round two and you're playing, it's going to depend. The round two is going to be interesting. This race for the 1 seed is going to be important just because you probably means you avoid Philly or Milwaukee in round two. But then who knows? But if it's anyone besides
Miami round two,
I was going to say if it's anyone besides Miami in round two, I think Pritchard can play. Like Magic, yes. Pacers, yes. Like there's a bunch of teams where I think I feel very comfortable with Pritchard playing against them, and so like that's obviously we'll worry about that in a few months, but a good problem to have for sure.
Yeah, I wonder about his defense. I last time I was on the pod, I had what we call around here lizard brain takes, where like maybe the evidence doesn't exactly support it, but you just feel that way. So I'm interested. My lizard brain take, Forsberg, was like, I think Pritchard's becoming a plus defensive player, and so he has a higher defensive rebounding percentage than Jaylen Brown. He's in the 66th percentile for his position as a defensive rebounder. He's solid at the point of attack. Like he's learned the Derrick White rear view contest when he has to go over. He runs guys off the 3-point line, and he's just like tough as shit and boxes out. And it's like, it doesn't take much to be like kind of a plus, like for position, for your size, for what's expected of you, defensive player. Am I insane, Forsberg?
No, and it's
all right.
The eyeball test even probably hammers it home more than the stats would, right? Like when I watch him now, I don't worry about teams trying to exploit it. And I know it's different in the regular season in a playoff series, but as Jake said, like I don't know how much you're going to have to lean on him. And if all he does is help limit some of the wear and tear on Derrick and your stock exchange backcourt, like then all right, you're doing your thing, and as long as he remains a positive when he's out there, and he's good, he's gonna play in the playoffs too, because they're gonna need that spark, that energy, that Leon Poe big baby type random game that you get, and he'll be able to do that. Like he'll turn a game at some point, and I feel a lot more confident about that. I went from that was a great contract to oh man, maybe they should have waited to get out of the preseason. All right, we're back. We're like, it's good. It was a good deal now. So good that's one less thing, and maybe the one less thing for him to worry about too, which is always encouraging.
Awesome. So last thing before we do the ad read here, very important for the First of the Floor audience here. But so you may have noticed we come up with ridiculous names for everybody. Bear Slayer for Porzingis and the Mistress. And Forsberg, look, you're always our OG NBC Sports Boston guy, but we did have Drew Carter on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, and we tried to incept his brain with some Hauser kind of nickname propaganda.
And what's your favorite? Like, well,
here we go. We got the clip.
We got a clip. Yeah.
Notably, Sam Hauser, who continues to be awesome. The house trap, defensively luring people into his defensive cage. His glaring whiteness invites them to attack him, and he just locks them down every time. It's amazing. And then on the other end, house party. House money from three every single time. He's sort of the most consistent Celtic, I think. You can kick him the ball.
Oh my God.
You're welcome to take these. They're not going anywhere with us.
Hauser, back to Pritchard. Hauser pulls it. House money from the free throw line.
We did it! We did it!
But no shout out, and that's my whole thing is if I steal from somebody, which I do pretty frequently, I try to at least give them some yeah, exactly. Like I would at least give Spoonie a little bit of credit for it. Because it would haunt me a little bit. Like, because I think it's one, people just see it and be like, oh, he just definitely took that idea from someone else. I am slightly disappointed that he did not. Drew is probably too young to fully appreciate what house party and kid and play and what that would be as a someone who obsesses about 90s and I guess the 80s hip hop and R&B. I would say like maybe I will do my best to get house party popping because if nothing else, maybe I can get Eddie to do the kid and play dance at some point. From our demo monitor.
To be fair, Ben did tweet at Drew Carter with the clip, and Drew did respond, being like, "Good, fast for you guys." So I like look. It doesn't need to give us credit, but hey, if you mention it to him in passing,
I'll make sure
shout
he
out
understands the rules
of the floor guys.
Twitter.
But so everybody in the chat, Forsberg, this is like you guys all made this possible, and this is that goes down in the first.
I love it. I love it. What else? Is there anything else? Like, what is the one nickname you guys have, whether it's Hauser or otherwise, that you're like, we need to get this trending, and this like needs to be a thing beyond us?
I would say the house trap for the Sam Hauser ISO set, like defensive sets when teams just attack him. I don't know, Jake. Do you have a different one?
Well, like that's definitely. Yeah, the house party stuff, the Hauser stuff in general is the best. The Bear Slayer and then the Mistress, we're kind of like going into like old...
Okay, what's the Mistress now?
Well, okay, Spoonie, I'm sorry for doing this to you in front of Chris.
Please, no.
Just
you did it in front of Derek's dad, so
I did do this
never
in front of
get
Derek's
worse
dad.
than that.
Yeah. Just last year when Derrick White was having this insane season, we kept talking about Derrick to my wife, and she was like, "Man, like you're really talking a lot about this Derrick guy," and then it
happened.
Exactly.
Like, let me tell you, like, I mean, my wife, when she saw the Robert Williams III bobblehead hanging around the house and then like slowly growing in prominence, and then it ended up on our Christmas tree last year, and she's like, she had to be like, what the fuck? At some point, it just gets to be a little bit too much. I will say, so that happens. I actually have to. I want to show you guys this. I haven't tweeted this yet, but
yes.
There's some like Twitter is trying to do some AI thing, and so they'll generate for you, and I don't know if it's gonna pop up. There it is. So you guys can screenshot that or whatever.
Yeah. Oh yeah, got it.
But I want to read it to you. So it essentially it goes through all your tweets from the year and tries to roast you based on what you tweet, and it says, "Oh boy, Chris Forsberg, you're in for a roasting like a Thanksgiving turkey. Let's see what we've got here. First off, you're like a broken record with your post. Rob this, Rob that. You get it. You're obsessed with Rob. Maybe you should change your name to Rob Forsberg and be done with it." And I was like, I'm now getting roasted by AI. I'm not here anymore. And I was just so like I as soon as you started to explain it, I was like, oh, I get it. Like I get the Mistress. It's perfect.
Yeah, exactly. But that's definitely like that's safe, and that's not one for that's safe here. That's not one for
not public consumption.
But yeah, all right. So we can do the ad read now, Spoony.
Yeah. I'll throw it on. Here we go. FanDuel.
Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/Boston and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
I don't have anything.
I need that for my ad breaks because like I just fumble my way through the reads, and you guys are like, here's a pro. Like I can't even call it up during the podcast. Like I'm getting.
To be fair, we used to do them live, and CLNS was like, "Why don't you guys do pre-recorded ones?"
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hate to do this, but it's Sixers -8 against the Raptors tomorrow.
I like that.
They are just Embiid is on an absolute tear. Regular season Embiid is out in full force, but like I watched the game yesterday where he had 50 against the T-Wolves. It was pretty unreal, and Jakob Poeltl's kind of up next. So that's my bet for the chat here. Fade me accordingly.
Have you seen that 5-man lineup for Philly? Like every time I go to look up the Celtics 5-man unit, I'm like, they're got to be the best amongst everybody. And that Philly lineup right now is like
they're second,
27 or something like that.
Yeah.
It's pretty cooking. So as much as I would like to slander the Philadelphia 76ers at every turn, I'm with you. It's they made it difficult.
They have fattened that net rating up a fair bit on the Pistons and
easiest,
Wizards and Hornets over the past couple of weeks, but But got to give it to them after beating the T-Wolves because they've been awesome lately. All right. We're giving the chat what they wanted. Jaylen Brown. It's time.
Yeah.
Last 13 games, assist to turnover of 1.83. Last 5 games, 2.8. He's clearly made it an emphasis. It's like his next development, which is something that I'm not sure I ever saw coming. I'm trying to touch wood a little bit here, potentially. But do we think the playmaking leap in relative terms, obviously with Jaylen Brown, is real, Chris Forsberg?
Yeah, I mean, like you don't make the passes that he's made the last 10 games and not be real. Like, do I think it's going to be as glossy as it's been the last couple of weeks? Probably not. Like, I think he's going to come back a little bit, but like, I think he's number 1 on the Celtics in assist points created over the last 7. I think that was the number we did today on Post Up. And clearly he's just making better decisions out there. Really, ever since that post by ESPN, the corny
it's
post.
Crazy, yeah.
And it like, look, guys get motivation off these things, and him chief among them. And so good for them lighting a little fire under him. I think if nothing else, it made him just sort of commit to it. And I'm sure like he made strides that maybe weren't evident early on when he was still trying to find exactly where he fits in. But yeah, I think one thing that Scal has said pretty consistently over the last probably 5 years has been this team will go as far as Jayson and Jaylen can make the right reads and make the right plays. And it might not always be about scoring, but just making the right decision. And man, Jaylen's making the right decision repeatedly now. And the number of the fact that the Celtics are as good. I haven't checked since the other night, but whatever it is, like they were plus 8.3 net rating or something when Jaylen's on and Jayson was off. And that is just up 5 points from last year, which was already up 1.5 points from the year before. And so my long-winded way of saying, yeah, I think it's sustainable. And I think Jaylen's getting much better in that. I don't think it'll be as good as it's been during this stretch, but the fact that he can go there and he can unlock that is pretty important.
Yeah. It's like Jaylen finally realized, wow, I'm so good. Defenses like send so much pressure and attention to me. Like the right decision isn't even that hard to make, right? It's almost like Brogdon is not a great playmaker, but he gets downhill so often and he can shoot that the right passes are there very easily because the help has to come so hard out of the corner or the big has to come and help so much. And Jaylen's finally getting to the point where he's like, wow, when I drive into a crowd, that means like 2 people are wide open. Okay, I'll just pass it now. And I feel like he's done a really good job where nail help would always give him a lot of trouble. They'd pick his pocket. They just get into his handle. Maybe it wouldn't get stolen, but he'd have to pick up the dribble and it grinds the offensive possession to a halt. And now I feel like what he's doing a lot is just kind of like almost like half posting them up or like sticking his body in there. Maybe an escape dribble and then just hitting the open man. And it just keeps the offense popping. And the assists start to rack up because this team has so many shooters and so many playmakers on it that if you just move the ball, you're going to get assists. And like, I think he's at near a career low for turnovers.
Yeah. Yep.
At least since he's become like a 20-point high usage guy. So
exactly.
It's yeah. And I think the big thing is like, I don't even know if the passing is better. It's just like as a skill, it's absolutely the decision making for me.
Yeah. And on that, Spoonie, like driving into a crowd, something that I think has been obviously different is him not leaving his feet. He's like, and I've got a clip here, and this one is like a transition one, which I think we've seen him like a million times, like drives into a crowd of everybody, but instead of leaving, he just like pivots and everybody's around him. And as you said, the passes are easy. And I went through and watched the last 7 games in particular, Forsberg, you had like the points created there. Those he's really been cooking. It's been trending in the right direction. By like those last 7 games, he's been ridiculous. And I went back and like watched all the assists for the last 7 games, and it feels more like just a mentality thing as well. It's just like I'm just 100%. Aware, a little bit more aware, and I want to make the right play. And I think he just deserves so much credit. And we kind of talked about this, but like so many guys never work on their weaknesses, like their true weaknesses. Like Steph Curry, his defense, for example, like he clearly worked his butt off to get stronger and become like a positive defender. Something that, Trae Young's still young, hasn't been able to do it. And there's, a litany of guys. DeMar DeRozan never learned to shoot threes. Jaylen Brown, this is not something that comes easy to him. It's not a natural skill of his, and it's something that he's talked about working on every day as much as possible this year. And like, I just love this about JB is there's every time we think that this is there's another thing, and you don't think that this guy heard all the talk, all the left hand jokes. I'm loving the left hand celebrations. He's like, every time he finishes with his left hand, he just like wags it at the bench, and everybody's like, I love it. I love it. He's like the magic stuff.
They're so aware. Like when they tell you they're not, like these guys have a lot of time. If I'm aware of it, like they're aware of it, right? Like so. Don't ever be fooled. I love that they find motivation in the corniest of things. And like it was a summer of slander, and it wasn't obvious out of the gate, right? Like we were like, oh, what? Every year I think he's come back and we've said, oh, he's definitely done XYZ. Like there's something like pretty tangible about like how he plays, and it wasn't obvious. It was like, is he just reaching the stage of his career where you start to, I hate to say like plateau, but like it's just harder to add things to your game, and it does feel like whether the coaching staff is putting him in better positions. I think defensively that's been huge for him and putting him at the point of attack. And, I think they really tapped into that in that Philly series last year when they dispatched him on James Harden. I think it just sort of snowballed from there. But just the decision-making is great. And it also helps when you can just be like, fuck it, Porzingis is up there somewhere. And just like, lob it and,
just
like it does help to have that presence where, they've got that chemistry. They sort of seem to know where each other is. And, it's all contributed to him being really good with passing the ball.
Yeah, I talk about him being a feel player all the time, which I'm sure people who listen to this podcast regularly are sick of me saying it, but like you can tell he's like in a really good groove. He's very confident. Last 7 games, 88% from the line.
Wow.
What? Yeah, right.
How about that, Jayson Tatum?
Yeah, come on, buddy. Below 80% somehow.
Where's that on like the things we're concerned about with the Celtics? Like Jayson Tatum's inability to hit back-to-back free throws.
It's the most frustrating thing.
Yeah.
Maybe. Like, it's just killing me, dude. Every time he gets up there, I'm like, dude, please.
You're Jayson Tatum. Just make your free throws, please. Even Derrick missing that one in the Golden State game, I was like, man, I want to be, what's going on with this team? And that Jaylen, it's bizarro world. But hopefully, from Jaylen's perspective, hopefully it continues. I still, every time he marches to the free throw line after a technical foul, I'm like, no. And then I see Tatum, I'm like, no. Like let Porzingis or
get Drew
things with the way they operate.
Yeah. So speaking of Tatum, real quick, so it seems like KP, I'm not worried about him finding his role, just expecting it to take longer than it has. JB, I think the big part of why he stumbled out of the gate was, it's just a much different team context, and he's, gotten used to it. Now he's playing maybe some of the best basketball of his entire career. Kind of feels like Tatum, like this is like not the best version of Tatum. This isn't even close to the best version of Tatum we've ever seen. I will say that with 100% conviction. So does it feel like Tatum kind of finding his exact role in this team is like the last piece of the puzzle? Is
it even the role though? Like for me, it just comes down to, I don't know if it was because he started so good and I don't know, just like things sometimes come easy, but I mean, if he can ever just get to shoot the 36% beyond the 3-point arc, like just send the Larry O'Brien trophies. It's like it's that simple to me. It's baffling that he's at just over 30% right now on threes, and it just hasn't been a consistent shot, and he's taken 8 of them per game. And I thought maybe that would, in the same way that Jaylen has recognized that he needed to evolve the passing and taken that, I just need Tatum to stay in that mindset of, like, at the start of the year, I thought he was relentless with attacking and using that 12 pounds of new muscle. How often do we bring that up over the first 20 games of the year? And I don't know, it just feels like he's settling a little bit more now. And, I think that's just a mindset thing, and that he needs to get back to knowing where he can dominate on the floor. And so I think it's just as simple as that. And he's gonna have a ridiculous January hot streak when he's gonna score 50 points 3 times, and we're gonna be like, oh yeah, this is what Jayson Tatum does. And I feel like it's usually January where it flips, and certainly think, I forget what it was, that the 22 season where, everybody kind of launched after the 21st or whatever it was. But yeah, I'm kind of waiting for it. I'm not worried about it. It's just the moments where you've been waiting for it, Indiana, Golden State, you're just like, man, like this is when the superstar takes over, and we haven't quite seen that moment yet. So hopefully he'll figure that out before the game really matter.
Yeah, it's like he's playing the right role. He's just got to play his role better. I think it's just it's not even necessarily too many threes. It's just, and we don't want to hit it too much again because we've been talking about it a lot. But like, he's like the highest volume pull-up shooter, and some of the pull-up threes are good where he has space coming off screens. It's the like really, really difficult ones that only Steph Curry and Dame and Halliburton, like the really, really, truly elite guard shooters in the NBA can hit. And it's okay that he's not that level of shooter. It's just, I think, similar to Jaylen, it's just like being a little bit more self-aware and understanding like what his strengths are. Like he's so dominant getting downhill. Like when I went back and painfully watched the fourth quarter and overtime of the Warriors game, he had some like really nice drives, and he got to the rim once. He missed a layup that he probably makes if he doesn't hurt his ankle earlier in that game. He's still doing it. It's just like he should be like, if Steph Curry's on one end of the spectrum and Giannis is on the other end, like he should be closer to Giannis than he is Steph, especially like the size that he is and the ability to finish at the rim and post up. Like just lean into some of his strengths.
I haven't looked at the numbers. I'd be fascinated to know, like, have the post ups dropped off? Like they weren't a ton,
True.
but like, just to know what the number is. And I think that's just like the coach staff needs to remind them. Just be a little bit, be a little bit more aggressive going to the basket. Keep that free throw number up. Like all those little things.
I wonder if part of it's just like, I'm not going to the rim 15 times and posting up 6 times a game, in December. Like I'm saving this second weapon for the playoffs. Like I've proved I can do it whenever I want, get whatever shot I want. Now it's time to take some shitty pull-ups and just kind of cruise until, win 60 games and fly off into the playoffs.
Which is fine. And like, if it means less minutes and like less wear and tear, like one of the things we've screamed about for years now is that he just doesn't seem to have the gas when it gets to the time that matters. And so like, I'm all for that. If they want to conserve, that's fine.
I would just like to he's taking, I would say 4 bad shots a game. I'll allow him to take 2 and just trade those other 2 for shots with the rest of the team. That'll be my only concern. It's like, his team is so good at generating good looks. It's just like, they're just wasted possessions to me. And so I would just be like, just get off the ball. His catch and shoot numbers are so good. Just let someone else, like Derrick White, he doesn't take his foot off the gas. Let some of these other guys do the hard work and stand in the corner and be a Sam Hauser level catch and shoot shooter and take the gravity that way. I've been saying he needs to watch LeBron coasting film. He's got to just be better at coasting.
Be elite at coasting, right?
Exactly.
Like,
yes.
know your spots. It reminds me when you were saying like he gets 4 bad shots a game, whatever. You get down to 2. You guys have probably heard the story, right? Where Ime had that thing where Marcus would throw 1 bad pass and he'd be like, "You had 1." And now like, you got no more craziness. Like you did the circus over the head and it hit the guy in the 3rd row. And Marcus would tighten up from there. Maybe they just need like a little counter where like Sam Cassell holds up a sign like 1, you got 1 bad shot. Here's 2. Okay. Like now it's got to be all good from there.
Yeah. I mean, look,
Jimmy coasting film is good as well, actually. Yeah, he cruises.
Yeah, Jimmy's an elite coaster, and he turns it on in crunch time every game
100%.
At least too, which is all you need to do. So, all right, real quick before we get out of here, Forsberg, because somehow it's already been an hour. I have no idea how that happened.
Every time I talk with you guys, it's just the time.
That's right. Yeah. That's it. Yeah, that's what no one says to me in my entire life. I appreciate it. So I want to talk about Missoula real quick because, like, I don't recall you being one of the timeout brigaders, like he needs to take more time.
I had my moment.
I know you had your moments, but I like, your colleague. Oh my God, I'm flaking on his name. Max. Yeah, Max. Yeah, Max.
He's a big timeout guy. He's also, his desk is near me, and him screaming at his TV is quite hilarious.
I'm sorry, Max, who I love and follow on Twitter, and he's the man and hilarious.
He's the producer legend too. I'll throw that.
Yes. Yeah, correct. Yeah. So, he is big on the time. He's the leader of the timeout brigade. But like overall, like if you had to give Missoula a grade for the season so far, what would you give him? And Jake, I want yours too.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to not go like super lofty. I don't know if I give him necessarily like A plus, but like a lot of the stuff that maybe I was concerned about, I think I've come to acceptance with the timeout thing. I think he's definitely been better and noticed spots that maybe he steps outside his comfort zone a little bit with that. But like, I knew that last play he wasn't calling timeout, and I get some of the theories behind it and all that. But like, I do hope maybe in a playoff situation, he would think to himself, like, maybe I just need to collect this team, and maybe like they'll take such bad shots down the stretch of these games that they'll have to start calling those. But yeah, like, I mean, I think he's been really good with the personnel this year, way better than he was last year when Grant kind of like faded away and a lot of those bench guys didn't have necessary roles. And I mean, maybe O'Shea and Lamar and those guys would quibble with that, but like, I think he's been pretty good about that and throwing Banton in there for random spot starts. And, I think the defense has been way more variable. Like they have different ways to attack you with that now. And the offense has been pretty good. Like, look, the whether you call it Missoula ball or whatever you want to dub it, like they've got a style that he wants to play, and he's really big on the margins. And like, I get his whole, like, I like there's no surprises to me anymore. Like, I know what he wants to do. And like, so maybe that just affects my grade too. Like, it's not as jarring as last year when you're like, why didn't this dude call timeouts? But yeah, he deserves credit. Like, he's been very good for a year where a lot of time was spent over the summer saying, well, Charles Lee and Sam Cassell sitting there, like, how's he going to play? Like, it hasn't even been a topic, outside of a couple of games. And invariably we're going to come down on coaching when they have these late game issues. But like, for me, when I watched that game, the last thing I was thinking was like Joe Mazzulla was the reason that they blew a 17-point lead. It was, the players just got away from operating the offense, and it was familiar traits, and no one has been able to save themselves from that over three seasons.
Yeah, I think I go B plus. The thing about the late, like, actually, he's definitely calling more timeouts in the flow of the game. He did a bunch yesterday in the Kings game. I shouldn't say a bunch because Mike Brown used all his timeouts. Like,
Mike Brown is exactly what Celtics fans want.
Yeah,
like,
that's
right.
Like,
yeah,
making none
they scored.
To the grave.
Timeout.
That's the thing with trying to stop a run. Like, that's not where I think timeouts are helpful. But it's like the last play of the game, you can actually have your cake and eat it too. Like, when I had to rewatch the stream of us watching the game, it's like you let them 13 seconds on the clock, you let them go, see if they can get a mismatch and attack. But once it gets to 5 seconds and Tatum's got Kuminga,
and he did that once last year, right? Like, it was so jarring when he called the mid-possession timeout. We all obsessed about it. Like,
was it the Philly game?
I think so.
Was it the Philly game where he set up Tatum for the game-winning three? Yeah.
Well, that's the thing.
Well, at least draw it up so that you run the same Tatum out of the backcourt play that he ran 700 times last year. Even that at least got him with some momentum. So I don't know. Like, I guess I'm gonna bitch no matter what he does. But like,
of course,
at least he's. I will say. I always say people have to be themselves. They have to be consistent, and he, by and large, he has been. So do your thing.
He's got good ATOs as well. Like, there was the play where Jaylen, it was ATO, Tatum at half court. This is, I think, in overtime. He hits Jaylen kind of like low corner, post up, and then he out Jaylen on playmaking, finds Al in the corner, cuts the lead to 1 before Steph Curry rips out Al Sol again on the other end. But I mean, out of the most important traits of any coach is like buy-in, and Missoula talked about it before the season that he didn't make defense and toughness and physicality like a big enough emphasis. And that, I think, was a big issue last season. And the defense, even though it's not technically second in the league, it is definitely better than last season. It waxed and waned all year last year. We saw it in flashes, but not consistently. And like, the Magic games really stick out to me, where the Magic, and specifically that second game, really tried to get physical with the Celtics. And the Celtics rose to the occasion, took the physicality, and that's been a big difference to me compared to last year. And then also being more willing to experiment. He gave Banton, as he said, Forsberg, gave Banton his chance. I think Joe, though, last year may have been cooking on the Grant Williams thing. I saw some tweets from Mavericks fans today who are having a tough time. But no, I'm going B plus. I do think that like that last possession stuff is important.
The last frontier of evolving Joe.
Yeah, because that's an everybody problem.
I do think he's done a lot better with the bench, like figuring out what the game needs, bringing Brissett in if it needs that, starting Lamar Stevens as a small ball. He didn't really have a ton of options, but he had different options than starting Lamar Stevens. That was kind of fun. Why not? But yeah, like the best argument against Joe's philosophy of not calling a timeout is how good at ATOs he is. It's like, you're so good, you should take advantage of your best skill there, Joe. So, all right. I'd probably say somewhere between, I once got a B+/A- on a paper in college.
Tell your teacher shit or get off the pot.
I know. So I was afraid to say that because then I feel like it would have been a normal B+. I think I'm right in between B+, A- for Joe. Overall, like he just looks a lot more comfortable, and you could tell with just the way he's interacting with you all, Forsberg, and the media. Yeah. He just seems so much more gregarious.
Except after losses. He's still like, but he's so damn competitive. Like I guess
he's a competitive mother, dude. Yeah.
Which I love. You know, in those moments that it hurts, and that he's does not want to talk about what went wrong. And,
I can't believe we didn't get a clip yesterday of him saying someone to Gary. It's like, where are the questions about the 3-pointers tonight?
I will admit, I was when we were listening to the on the press conference, I was wondering if it was going to come up. But yeah, I'm glad he sometimes you just got to take the good win.
Yes,
and keep it pushing.
Yeah. All right. On that note, on those sage words from Chris Robert Williams III Forsberg, we will call this one. You guys know where to find Forsberg, NBC Sports Boston. You can't miss him if you're a Celtics fan.
I don't know where. Like if you can, like good for you.
Yeah, right.
I am overexposed.
So seriously, man, thank you so much. We really appreciate it when you come on, Jake. Of course, I'll see you soon. Love your work. We are out.
I love